Hi, Conor O'Dwyer, retired jockey, current racehorse trainer, jockey's agent, jack of all trades. Originally from Wexford, Wexford town. No connection with horses early days. Mum was a nurse in the Wexford General Hospital. Dad was an accountant in a few different firms along the way, and really all started from school. A friend of mine, John Berry, had a few ponies and he used to go up there after school. Just got the love and the bug from them from there, and that's where it started. So it was a funny start. I suppose from the time I was 5 or 6, really, going up to John's, as I say, after school and just riding the ponies around, really. So I suppose we started doing a bit of gymkhanas around 10, 11 years of age, bit of hunting, that sort of thing. And then I started to ride out for Lord of Mercy on Liam Cod out in Ferrycarrig when I was about 12. I used to cycle out before school in the mornings, and funny enough, Liam had dropped me in at 9 for school, but I'd walk around the back gate and get back into the car and head back out for the day. So that happened pretty regular. So schooling wasn't top of the list, obviously, unfortunately. And really, I was with Liam, as I said, weekends and school holidays, and was in Jim Rossiter's and lots of places down in Wexford, and learned a hell of a lot. I came to the apprentice school when I was in Kildare here when I was 14, and I served my apprenticeship, or started to serve my apprenticeship, with a man still training at the minute, Frank Oakes. And Frank was going through a tough time. His wife wasn't well, and we had a bit of a falling out, and I went back to Wexford, and Frank wouldn't release me from my apprenticeship, so I couldn't ride on the track. And I worked for Peter O'Leary down in Duncormac, which is beside Padges, and I was there for a while and going nowhere, but sure, I was happy just riding horses and getting a few quid and whatever. And I remember Padge gave me a shout one day. He says, "Come up to the house this evening," and I was going, "God, what's this about?" So I went up that evening anyway, and Padge says to me, "Listen, boss," he said, "you're going to one or the other." He said, "It's either Francis Flood or David Nicholson in England." And I went, "Sorry." He says, "You're too good to be down around here." He says, "One or the other." He says, "You take your pick now." So I sat for literally, I'd say 30 seconds, and I said, "Francis Flood." And he said, "Grand." He picked up the phone, he rang Francis. He said, "A lad here will be with you next Monday." So I suppose the proper riding career started from there then. Horse-wise, Bob's Line, those sort of horses were there. Frank Berry was first jockey. Anthony Powell, Lord of Mercy, was there. Maurice Phelan. I think John Quealy had only shortly gone before me there. So a lot of good jockeys, a lot of good horses. And like at the time, Francis was one of the top national huntmen in the country. And a lot of horses, as I said, and great experience, and he gave me a great chance. I had, as my apprenticeship, I had a couple of rides on the flat for Frank, and my first winner was for Frank. It was a Pro-Am bumper in Limerick, Christmas time. And then, as I said, we had the falling out that headed back to Wexford for a while. But no, I had a few winners ridden before that. Rode a lot of winners early days when Frank Berry was first jockey, but a lot so different back then. Clayman Rider literally got rides in opportunity races. They very rarely rode against the professionals. Not as many runners back then either, but I was claiming professional. I won the title there when I was with Francis, but I think it was with something like 15 or 16 winners. The claiming title is won now with 40 winners type of thing, or maybe even 50 winners. So it's, as I say, times just changed so much. It was quite heavy starting off. I was probably 9 stone, so I could really only claim off, 9, 4, 5. Probably should have taken an amateur license out and went the point-to-point route, but the fact that I just started in the apprentice centre, and I just followed it along the way the lads were everybody was doing at the time, but they were a lot lighter. But I always wanted to go jumping, and didn't ride too many on the flat early days anyway, so we went jumping quick enough. Thought I was in Floods, I suppose I was there 5 or 6 years. maybe even a bit more. After that, I went freelancing. I was riding a good bit for Mouse at the time, and probably freelanced a lot. Then Mouse gave me the job, and probably was there. But again, you weren't in Mouse's that often. He, as he said to me the first day, he says, the less we see of each other, he says, the longer we last, sort of thing. So it was a great job. So I was able to go around to different yards and ride out for other people and keep my options open. And Christy Roach had started training on the Courier, and I was riding out there a good bit, and rode a good few winners for Christy while I was with Mouse, and things just snowballed along nicely, and it was just, timing was everything. Got into, as I say, good horses that were coming along, didn't clash. It just worked lovely for me. That was a horse called, I think it was called Yale, for Ferdy Murphy, Jeff Hubbard. I'd been over there I was suspended here for a while, and I went over to Ferdy and Jeff Hubbard in just outside Ipswich, actually, in England. Lord of Mercy and John Durkin got me the contact, and rode a good few for them, and I think my first one or two Cheltenham rides were for Ferdy and Jeff. First Cheltenham winner was Imperial Call, 96, so it was nice to get off the mark in the Gold Cup for your first winner. He was very injury prone. He was a hell of a horse. He had a huge amount of ability. I think in hindsight the key to him was Fergie Sutherland. He gave the horse a lot of time, a lot of individual attention. I was lucky to get on him. Charlie Swan had to ride Life of a Lord for Aidan O'Brien in the Hennessy, and Frank Berry kindly put my name in the hat to Fergie Sutherland, and I got to ride on him, and we won on him. And Charlie came back in when we were in Leopardstown and threw a saddle on the table, and he says to me, well done, he says, but he's my ride. And I went, yeah, fair enough, chat, no panic. But a few days later, Fergie rang me and he said, look, he said, I've spoken to the owner, and he said, we'd like to leave you on him. So the rest is history, I suppose. I got beaten a few heads and necks and half lengths and things in handicaps over the years, and this lad just popped up and just happened to be the first one. So as you say, where are you after that? But again, it's just all about a bit of luck and the right place, the right time, and just happened to come along. Was fantastic. It was an unbelievable day coming back into the parade ring. The whole place was absolutely just jammed with fans and loved the horse. And sure, the Irish was the first year, our first winner for I think 10 years after Dawn Run in 86. So it wasn't like today you're expecting it these days. But back then it was a huge thing, massive. Hardy came then in 2004. Again, chance ride, Lord of Mercy on poor Kieran. He'd won a Sun Lions hurdle on him, and passed away during that year. And I think Norman was actually to ride him then, and Norman got a fall and retired on medical grounds as well. So I got the call up then, thank God. It was a bit of skullduggery. I think I rang Desi about it, just to put my name in the hat, just to say, look, I've obviously no horse of his calibre, so I'd be free the whole time for him. And Desi said, look, he said, as luck would have it, he says, we're self and Lara Byrne, the owner, are going to the HRI Awards this afternoon. He said, we'll be on the train between, can't remember, maybe 1 and 2 or something. And he said, just give a ring there about 1:30, give me a ring, and say what you're after saying there now. And he said, I'll be able to chat to Lara on the train. So he did, and that evening, or maybe the next day, Desi rang me and he says, yeah, that's all done and dusted. So again, where I started off, I think maybe in the Red Mills hurdle on him, got beat in Navan. I think he finished 4th or 5th in Navan. Took me a while anyway, so the first winner on him was actually the champion hurdle as well. That year, Rooster Booster was favourite. I think he'd won the county hurdle the year before, and he'd progressed along the way, and he was favourite. So all the chat was about him. Our lad was 33s. He was we had Desi had him in the Coral Hurdle the same year, and I was thinking that's great. He should win a Coral Hurdle. He'll be my second winner in Cheltenham. And Desi rang me the week before, and he says, "No," he says, "we're going to go for the champion." I went, "Oh, there's another winner gone down the drain." Just shows you what I knew. And we went. I was hoping. I thought he'd be placed. I thought he's definitely good enough to be placed. But we just popped out and let him roll along, and he made everything so easy on the day. Jumped super, travelled great, and that was it. And everybody, obviously, on the day, I think he won 5 lengths, beat Rooster Booster. And everybody, bit of a fluke or whatever, this, that and the other. But back to Punchestown and backed it up well. So we went back then, having won in Punchestown. A bit of an in and out year, I think, if I'm right. I might have got beaten the Irish champion. Didn't run well, I think. But Desi said going there that he didn't think he was at his best, not to kill him. But went back to Cheltenham, and that was the famous year of the famous finish with Archibald and Brave Inca. Again, an unbelievable, I think it's not because I rode him or that, but it definitely has to be one of the best finishes in Cheltenham history. It was unbelievable. I was freelancing at this stage because I had been with Christy Roach for a good few years, more so. He was supplying most of my rides, but never really had an agreement. I was in between. I was with Arthur Moore for probably 6 years, which were an unbelievable 6 years. Yeah, Fran Woods was first jockey to Arthur, and he had Fran got an accident, a car accident, and did ligament damage to his shoulder. And I was coming back from England, and I think I was actually going into Arthur's an odd day to school a few of horses for Frank and JP, and Monday then Arthur just said to me, "Look," he said, "I don't think Fran is going to make it back." He said, would you like to step in for the rest of them?" Which of course I would. It was an unbelievable job to get at the time. As I said, I think I'd have went probably back to Kim's that year if that didn't come along, but thank God it did. It was a top job. He had a lot of very good horses at the time. More Than a Stroll, Glenelly Gale, Clarence Davis was still there. Graphic Equalizer, Jeff L, a huge amount of horses. Won a lot of big races. We won a couple of Nicholson champion chases up in Down Royal, Glenelly Gale and More Than a Stroll, Munster National on More Than a Stroll, Kerry National on More Than a Stroll. A lot of as I say, Victor Chandler on Jeff L, and a Ladbroke Hurdle on Graphic Equalizer. So a lot of big winners, but just in general a top job to have. And before that, I'd spent a year in Kimbailey's after Imperial Call won the Gold Cup the following season, 97 I think. I went to Kim's for a year. My agent Kieran O'Toole knew Kim was looking for somebody. Norman Williamson had been there, and they'd went their separate ways. And Kieran just said to me, "Would I be interested in going and riding in England a bit?" And I said, "Absolutely." But I had kind of started to build up good contacts and nice horses after, obviously, the Gold Cup, and felt I didn't want to move there, but would give it a go. So we went and met Kim before the 97 or 8 season, and we had a bit of lunch in London with him, and he said he'd be very happy for me to go sort of over and back type of thing. So that happened for a full season, and I think I rode 30 winners in England and 60 here. Had a fabulous year, and it was great to see all the smaller tracks in England, and just the different things, and a fabulous experience. Where Kim was in Lambourne at the time is very central to a lot of tracks. 2.5 hours got you a lot of places. Okay, we went to a few northern tracks at times, but sometimes I'd be maybe just going from here, from Ireland to the Northern England tracks, which made it easier even. So no, I didn't find the travel bad, no. Again, another bit of luck. David Casey was Mouse's first jockey at the time, and War of Attrition was running in Navan in a 4-year-old. Not sure it was a winners or a maiden hurdle, and David went to England to ride for, I think Francis Crowley was training for a good owner of Mouses at the time, Vincent Daly. Might have went to ride like a Promily or something like that. And War of Attrition was running in Navan, so Mouse rang me, would I ride him? I said, of course I will. Made all, jumped super, galloped up the hill, really, really impressive. I think Max Joy was second. And I came in, I said to Mouse and Michael O'Leary, I said, if ever David Casey goes anywhere or has to get off this lad, please give me a call. And I remember saying he was definitely the only horse I'd ridden since Imperial Call that reminded me of him. So David obviously got back and rode him most of that season, and it must have been a year or so later. Naas, I think it was, before Cheltenham. He ran terrible, and then coming to the Supreme Novices, David got off him to ride Maria Rawlins for Pat Fahey, and Mouse rang me and said, would you like to ride him? I said, absolutely. So we got beaten neck by Brave Inca in the Supreme Novices that year, and after that then Mouse left me on him. We were partners for a few years after that. The first one went by in a bit of a blur between being your first Cheltenham winner. I wasn't young, I was 30, so it's not as if I was a kid that I should have appreciated it, but I don't know, it was just, as I said, it was probably more a different time when the Irish weren't as having the prolific winners that we're having in the last few years, and but the second one, again, to do with being very close to Mouse, very friendly. We've had a great working and friend relationship for years. So actually, a little story, I remember when Imperial Call won, I remember Mouse saying to me after, he says, can I go out with you tonight to celebrate? I said, absolutely, why not? Well, he says it's probably the closest he'll ever get to a Gold Cup winner, 10 years earlier. So all those little things just made it that more special, and the fact that I was 41 or whatever, so everything was just, yeah, we're super. And then I suppose AP, when he was appointed jockey, I suppose things were a bit different then, and Michael O'Leary came to me, I suppose for the last 5 years of my career, and just said to me would I like to ride the horses. I'd obviously been riding War of Attrition, and they were starting to get bigger, and I just thought at this stage of my career now, this is it's a nice opportunity to finish out your career with. So we did that for the last 5 years, and when I retired then he gave us our first horse, which was Hangover. So huge association with them. They were very good to me. Every single position from second to 30th, fell, pulled up, refused, you name it, I have it on the CV. Not a win. Second twice, actually, beaten a neck by Paris Valley. I rode a hunter chaser called Captain Batnack for John Sterling up the north. My God, late 80s, and got collar on the line. And I was second on Feather Leader for Arthur 1 year, but that was it. That was as close as we got to that. And I think I've won 4 Ulster Nationals, 3 Kerry Nationals, 3 Munster Nationals, a Uttoxeter Midlands National, every national in the book bar the right one. I loved Leopardstown. Loved riding in Leopardstown. I loved the chase course. To turn down the back in Leopardstown and that line of fences down there is magical. Magical. And again, very fair race course, very hard to say you were unlucky. You know, you big long straight to come home, best horse nearly always won. No, I can't say one stood out because not even the War of Attritions or the Hardys, they were very individual, and you loved them for different reasons. But there's one horse that kind of stood out that went under the radar. He won 9 Grade 1s native upmanship for Arthur Moore. If the Ryanair chase was around in his day, they'd have named it after him, because, you know, he was second in 3 champion chases, I think. He just was too slow for the 2 miles. He couldn't get the 3-2 around Cheltenham. He was just so caught in between, but he was a real favourite. The difference back then, we'd no jockey coaches, you'd no cameras, you'd no simulators, you'd nothing to improve yourself really other than race days. And again, I suppose just the fact that I really idolised Frank and the way he rode. He was so tidy and neat on a horse. And again, it's not something I probably thought of early days. I probably just maybe floated along early days, but later in life I really kind of thought, you know, you're going to have to, you know, stand out here a bit and do things a bit different, and just concentrated on it a bit. And a lot of it was there, I think, naturally, but you still need to work on these things. I am on it, I must admit. I'm useless at it. Charlie does it. His Kira that works with us here, who's gone out with Charlie, she does it. Audrey did a lot of it again before she got sick. Listen, there's good and bad, of course there is. We sold a horse or 2 from it. I'm sure people wouldn't have known about my training without it. But again, I think more so for the younger people, just too much for the times. They can't look left or right without this being up or that being up. Now, a lot of it is their own fault, but yeah, look, it's changing with the times, and probably I'm a bit old-fashioned, but look, there's good and bad for it. There's a very good horse going back a long time ago, Art Trail. Pat Kelly in Galway trained him. I think he was going to be a top class horse. He broke his leg with me at the second last in the Supreme Novice hurdle, going to run a cracker. Other than that, probably he's the one that sticks out to me. Of course, there's been plenty probably along the way, but he's definitely the one that sticks out. Tramore, New Year's Day, 2 mile 6 chase. I rode a horse called Lucis for Francis Flood, and we've gone around. I can't even think what the right number is now, never mind then. But anyway, I went to Circuit too soon. I went up past the winner post 1, as I thought, and went to pull up and go in the gate. And Mick Byrne was riding for Tom Costello, I think, and I could see him heading off up the hill, and I went, oh. So I took off after him, and actually was still going to finish second, and went down and made a mistake last and fell off him. What a long walk from the last home that was. Carberry was the maddest. Wouldn't be the funniest. Who was good crack to wear him? Jesus. And there was always good banter. Norman was a great character. Carberry, who else was there? God. There were the flat lads were. No, there wasn't. The jump lads were come on, the jump lads were good. Yeah, jump lads were pretty normal. Mostly with Tommy Carmody, I suppose. I went a lot on my own. I like to kind of go and come when it suited me rather than waiting around or being there too early or that. But yeah, Tommy was probably one I travelled with a good bit. When Tommy retired then, good friend of mine, one of my best friends, had passed away since. John Short came home from England, and we went racing, I say, every day that both of us had rides together, and they were good times now. A few stories there, but not for camera. Niall Madden, he'd be, what would I say, like, he had a different way of sweating to everybody else. He could sweat for 12 hours a day. But I remember going to, I think it was Killarney one day, and I said to him I had a few pounds to lose. So he said, throw on the sweatsuit, he says, and I'll put on the heater. And I said, no, sure. I said, well, you're not sweating today or whatever. And Booth says, doesn't matter. So got into the car after going for a bit of a jog with the sweatsuit, and I think we were halfway down. I was nearly passing out, like I was done. I said, pull in there. I said, no way would he pull in the whole way to Killarney. I think I just drained myself out of the car. It took me about an hour to come around. But no way was he letting me out. First ride was Laura's Bow for Frank Berry. he was third in it, and I think the second year was the Void National. Rode him again. I think he was sixth or something, but that was it. That third was as close as we got to the winning line. I retired in 2008, which was 2 years after War of Attrition. He sustained a tendon injury the following year after the Gold Cup. So at that age, to lose a good horse like that, it was a big blow. And Hardy was probably heading the wrong age too as well. So when you have those horses that age, it keeps you going. And for those horses to be kind of gone then, it was time to move on. I had started training in kind of my last year of riding, and we had our first winner in January. Hangover won a bumper in Punchestown. So it was kind of there that I was going to finish up. It was really only a matter of when. And I was in Naas one Sunday, shortly before Easter, the Grand National in Fairy House. And I had a chat with Frank Berry, and I said, look, I've no good horses, no good job. You're only dragging it along, really. I'm 42. So he said, you're doing the right thing. And we had a bit of a chat, and I said, that's it. So I was walking out in Naas, and I said to Tony O'Hare, he was leading journalist at the time. I said to Tony, I'm after having a chat with Frank there, and I said, I'm done. And he said, oh God, he said, listen, he said, we're very busy in the Race and Post this week, but he said, I want to do a feature on you. And he said, would you hold off kind of announcing till after maybe the National, that I can do a bit on you? I said, yeah, grand, no problem anyway. So, of course, without announcing anything, David Fitzgerald declared me on Mr. Top Notch in the hurdle race in Navan on Easter Monday. So, of course, I'd forgotten about it and picked up the paper, seen myself down the ride. So I headed on to Fairy House Grand National Day, and Frank kind of rang me and said, I thought we discussed this. I said, we had, but I said, kind of forgot to tell anybody. So I went around on him, he won, and sure, it couldn't have been a better retirement. I suppose the only comparison is everybody needs a jockey, trainer, even owner, need good horses. It makes them, but the actual day-to-day thing is totally different. You're running a business, your responsibilities are hugely different. You're answerable to your owners. Massively different. A lot more rewarding, I suppose, in ways, because you are, as I say, responsible for them, and it's your call to do different things with them. Whereas when you were riding them, you got up on them, you did your best, you got off them, and you kind of bring on the next one, nearly type of thing. So yeah, massively different. We were lucky in the sense that we had purchased land around the Calverstown area, about 40 acres, and we were going to build our madness, a yard and gallops and the whole thing, but we had planning issues, and in the midst of it all, this place came up for sale, and thank God a lady that had a yard adjoining the land wanted more land and bought a land office in Calverstown, so we bought here, and probably was the best bit of luck I've had in a long time. To train on the Curragh is just, the facilities are second to none. They're absolutely world class, jumping or flat. The array of gallops, the different surfaces, the way they're repaired every morning, every half hour. Even in that bad snow 4 or 5 years ago, the tractors were staying on 24/7. You were able to canter along and do your work. It's just a phenomenal place to train. Yeah, we're dual purpose, but I suppose maybe 2 years ago we definitely had more flat horses. And then just for no particular reason, but just a lot of my owners are national hunt men through and through, and we're probably back more 75-25 jumpers at the minute. But yeah, love the flat. It's a lot quicker, a lot easier to train them, a lot less injuries. but a bit like my owners at the back of it all, I'm a national hunt man. Like Audrey was a massive help to me over the years. She put syndicates together, you know, she talked to owners, she was a huge help. And just in the last 2 years, actually next week, she had an aneurysm, and she's absolutely flying, but that 2 years now has taken its toll. We've missed her around the place, and you know, she's been a big help. We had a very good horse of Jigginstown, Folsom Blue, won us a grade 3 hurdle, Punchestown trial, Grand National trial with him. With a very, very good horse of JP's competitive age. We've had very good horses. Hangover was an unbelievable. He was our first winner, our first chase winner. He was a superstar. He was just touched off in the Thaes days for us. Had a lot of good horses along the way. Just probably lacked a real superstar. But look, we've had a lot of winners, and you know, it's like any trainer. If you get the horses, you'll do the business. Unfortunately, we're down to about 18, which is not enough horses really. You need at least 25, and probably 30 is a better number, obviously. But in saying that, we're down on staff, but the staff we have are fantastic. We've Charlie's here at the minute, which is a huge help, and it keeps me going as well to see him riding winners and being a help to him. And recently I've taken out an agent's license because we're down in numbers. I've a bit of time to do it, and it's an extra few quid. And minding Charlie as well, he's on his £5 claim. He's riding really well, but still needs to get a bit stronger. And I think a lot of the kids go through their claims a bit quick. So I've taken him on, and another few lads and a few flat lads as well, and it's going along nicely. So bit of a finger in a few pies, but look, it's all about keeping it going. When I started at the ponies, I suppose racing was, even though we were at Gymkhanas and we were doing the show jumping and that sort of thing, and my mum and dad actually used to rent a bit of land for us to have a pony or two, and we used to go out and feed them every evening after school, and you know, there were great times. But I never saw myself as a show jumper. I always just wanted to be a jockey. Why or what, you know, I don't know, but this was just in my head. But because no racing was really on TV at the time, bar your Irish National or your Derbies or whatever, you never knew too many jockeys, or there was never anybody. There was no social media, there was no phones, there was nothing, I suppose. So it was only when I got into, I suppose, the apprentice school that kind of started noticing different people, whatever. And as it turned out to be influenced with Frank Berry, Frank was always just so stylish, quiet, nice, he seemed a very caring man with his horses, never hard. He was always in my head, and then, as I said, to end up in Floods with him as first jockey was just, yeah, it was super. I'd have met him obviously in the weigh room when I was an apprentice, but again, very quiet. He wouldn't say a lot, so it's kind of hard to get to know him, I suppose. But yeah, when I went to France's, then he kind of took me under his wing, which was a fair achievement, I suppose, at the time. But I owe a lot of my successes and a lot of my career to him. I'm not saying it's in a bad place, but it has changed unbelievably a huge amount in the amount of time I've been in it, which is not a long length of time training, really. You know, the small man had a good chance, a lot better chance, I suppose, is a better way of putting it, when I started than he does now. The bigger yards have just really taken the whole thing over, and that is not their fault by any manner of means. It's just the way things are. But something has to change to keep the the middle and small man in. Actually, there is no middle man anymore. It's kind of top and bottom at the minute, really. So HRI are putting on some races for, say, trainers that haven't trained 20 winners or 15 winners in a season. They're a great idea, and they're very well supported. And I think they're actually for the punter and the general race goer. I think they're actually a better race. They're more competitive. So hopefully we'll see more of those coming along. But something has to be done to help the small man. I know it's look, it's our own business and we have to look after it too, but it's just very hard to compete with the big ones that are able to, with the buying power, I suppose, is the whole thing, that they're spending 200,000-300,000 on horses every day of the week, really. We're dealing with the 13-40 grand horse, so it's not easy, but look, we're going to have to just get the head down and keep at it. A lot of the old characters obviously have passed on, and there's nobody replacing them. Look, I suppose between everything being online, you can watch every race from Newcastle to Tramore to wherever it may be. You can sit at home in the comfort of your home. Charging into the races, to me, midweek is absolutely madness. If a family is driving by and they kind of say, sure, we'll be going for an hour, they're not going to pay 60, 80, 100 quid to go into for an hour. They might do so if they got in for nothing, and you might get them back. Obviously that's not the reason that crowds are down, but I think it might help get them back. It's like anything, it's like any of the sports now, it moves with the times. There are nutritionists and everything is minded a lot better, and it's all to do with the health of jockeys when they retire. I don't agree with the saunas being taken away from the race courses. I really think that the less time you're dehydrated during the day makes a lot more sense. So I think if you're there at the first race and you have to be dehydrated till the last, I don't see the sense in it. But look, I'm sure there's other issues around it as well, but I didn't think that was a great idea. It's not going in a great direction. I'd say you'll see in the not too distant future no whips, really. I was never one for it. I never used it a huge amount. I think I had 2 suspensions in my career for it, but I think it's needed, especially younger horses, as a guide, and I definitely think it's something that shouldn't be done without. But no, I don't agree with heavy-handedness of it either. The money. Collecting your check on a Friday in the turf club, not having to pay anybody, was a big thing. Listen, I suppose when you had a career like mine with those good horses and the big days and things going so well and injury free and that, it was, looking back on it, sure, it was an absolute doddle. It is a funny place, and you can ride a very good race in it and get beat. It's you need a lot of luck around it. It's very tight. Everybody is doing their utmost to ride a winner or train a winner there. I obviously loved it. I couldn't say I didn't, and I didn't have really any hard luck stories out of it. So no, to me it's a fabulous place, and even to walk into it now is, still kind of gives you that bit of a tingle. I prefer the chase, and you had a bit more time, I think, to do things. I suppose a good jumper on a good track, as I said, like Leopardstown, when you turn down the back in Leopardstown, you have 7 fences there. On a good jumper, or Sandown, or those big tracks, to ride a good jump around there is, there's no better trail. They ride a lot tighter here. There was a lot more room in England. You could go down the inner, you could go where you wanted, really. Jockeys here, it's a lot more competitive here, the riding. You don't get any second chances here. You did in England, I think, a bit. Yeah, it was a different style, and they went quicker from the time they jumped off, so they were kind of a lot more strung out by halfway, whereas the Irish racing tend to be a bit steadier early and finish quicker. That was 100 years ago. Yeah, that was an early lesson. Clonmel, the chase track, and I think it was a wooden rail. There was definitely no plastic rail anyway. And I turned in and I was travelling well, and Tommy Carmody and Paddy Kiley were in front, and I went to go up the inner, and Paddy left enough room that I'd chance it, and let's say I didn't get too much further. It was the last time I tried that one anyway. But it was a nice way of doing it, whereas now poor Paddy'd get about 2 months for it. But he was right, and it should be still that way. There's too many jockeys for too little jobs, really, is basically it. Even the good claimers of Danny Gillies, even Sam, he's lucky enough that he was in Gordon's to continue there. But Jack is young, you know. It could be like Ruby and David Casey or Paul Townend. Like, Jack could be there for 15 years or more, and Sam will be just, you know, there. That's what I was saying to you earlier on. The amount of luck I had that just things came along, you know, as you said, the card, they were just aligned right. Like if, say, I suppose for Sam, say, he needs a first jockey now, he looks to be riding Noel's horses now, but your Noel has no jumpers left now. Do you know, it's hard, and then they can just go by the way, so get a few injuries, not be riding as well. You know, there's just not enough jobs here for the amount of lads that are here. Definitely wasn't as many jockeys. Most yards had a first jockey. A big yard might have had a second jockey, but there was no such thing as a third jockey or 2 or 3 conditionals, or that didn't happen. Do you know, and then they'd use a good lad coming up, whereas now trainers can't use a lad outside the yard, because the lad in the yard, he'll go somewhere else, and the yards need good lads to ride out. So it's just, yeah, it's changed massively. The only one I remember, and it's very true, Mouse said to me years ago, he said, being a jockey is the only job when you retire you have to start working. And how right he was. But no, look, it's one of those games you have to love it to the last, because for what's in it, the knocks are especially the training, the knocks are there every day of the week. There's too many. The bad days outweigh the good days. I had an unbelievable career. Very, very lucky with a lot of things, with injury, as I said, with the way jobs fell. I definitely wouldn't change anything with it. It was a fabulous time. I dearly love the training. I really do. I love the whole thing about it. Obviously, the delivering bad news thing and injuries and that is not easy. But I really do love the day-to-day training part of it. But in saying that, as I said, we're down on numbers. We have been before. We've gotten back up a bit, but as soon as you seem to get back up, you have another few injuries, you're back down again. So as I said, just with a bit of time on my hands, I started the agency thing, and I'll continue to build that. But I would dearly love the training is first and foremost. So hopefully we can see it out.